Let's bring in Sherry Wong, Executive Director of Alliance Canada Hong Kong, a campaign for pro-democracy Hong Kongers in this country. Sherry, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So we heard David Johnston, the special rapporteur, say he's confident he can get useful information from diaspora groups, even if someone is feeling targeted, even if they're worried about backlash. He's talking about potential in-camera hearings to protect people. What's your reaction to what you heard yesterday?
I know that he also spoke about having, submissions from diaspora members. While I understand the approach, I think it's different because there is still an electronic and a paper trail to these participations. And really, when we talk about the diaspora safety, isn't about just having an in-camera meeting. It's really about having a secured way for them to freely engage in what they want to talk about with the government. And participation is frankly meaningless unless we put the diaspora safety as the utmost priority.
So are you getting the sense from people that you talk to, is there a willingness, is there a faith in this process that there are going to be safety measures, and are people going to feel comfortable coming forward?
A lot of my community members engage through anonymous means. They use aliases, they create multiple emails just to distance themselves from any type of dissident work. So from my perspective, I don't think there's going to be a very high uptake in diaspora who may hold sensitive views in Beijing's perspective. But I think really importantly, we have to understand that it is only those who have favorable views or those who are aligned with Beijing's interests can really safely exist in the public space. So that leaves diaspora members who have dissenting views more vulnerable to foreign interference and intimidation tactics.
Now, I know you've gone before several parliamentary committees studying this, so have other organizations. Will David Johnston, as the special rapporteur, hear anything that hasn't already been put on the record? Do you think something useful is going to come from his hearings?
I think, we've seen a lot of public hearing through parliamentary committees. We've also seen a lot of civil society, such as Amnesty and the Citizen Lab, creating various reports on foreign interference. I don't question the ability to understand more of foreign interference. I think that's really important. But I think it is even more important right now we take action and that we address the very concerns that diaspora don't feel safe here in Canada, and how we can create a sustainable and safe space for them to continue to engage in our political processes.
Right, and you've said before that Canada can't wait for the public hearings to finish, can't wait for the rapporteur's final report. You want faster action. I know your group put out a detailed report last week on foreign interference with a number of recommendations. What's your top priority in the short term?
I think Canada needs to create a communications and engagement strategy with diaspora communities. And this is not limited to ethnic Chinese diaspora, but with different diaspora communities who all face different forms of foreign interference. We need to be engaged and communicated at a cultural and linguistically sensitive level. That means we have to go beyond translation materials, but actually creating culturally and linguistically sensitive materials to outreach to diaspora members. I think that's our first step to really create a safe and inclusive space for the diaspora to truly engage in Canadian processes.
Another aspect of your report dealt with a foreign agent registry. The government has held consultations and is signaling that a bill is coming. What do you think needs to be in that bill?
A lot of things. I think one of the most important pieces is how do we capture the PRC's proxies. Beijing often use proxies as a way to engage in foreign interference and influence activities, which allow them to fly under the radar. But it is frankly the proxies that have a lot of influence in mainstream society, and we need to be able to capture those proxies. And on another level, we also need to have strong enforcement and investigative powers to this registry so that those who are non-compliant will be investigated, and if appropriate, some kind of penalty will be placed on them so that the registry isn't just for transparency, but it is an enforceable measure that holds power over those who operate here in Canada.
Okay, we just have a moment left. I want to close on this. In David Johnston's first report from May 23rd, he said there's a risk of a racist backlash against diaspora communities unless it is well communicated that these communities are the victims of foreign interference and not its instruments. And I know this story, the foreign interference story, in all its forms, has really been on the front burner in Canadian politics for several months now. How have you seen it in your community? Is there a backlash that people are feeling right now?
There is a long history of systemic and institutionalized violence towards Asians, towards Chinese people in Canada. It's not new. And a lot of our community members still remember, the violence they have felt, not only through the COVID pandemic, but the continued xenophobia that exists here today. So yes, I echo the calls to ensure that the diaspora is not treated as the enemy, but I also don't think there is the necessarily cultural lens right now to offer a truly anti-racist approach when we do move forward with such legislations like a foreign influence transparency registry.
Okay, Sherry Wong, we have to leave it there. We'll certainly be following this story. I want to thank you for all your thoughts on this.
Thanks for having me.